I love what I teach because it is relevant to the world. Hi, welcome to Mr. Parker Meets. I'm Stuart Parker. All right, hi. Again, my name is Stuart Parker, and I am Orange County Public Schools 2021 Teacher of the Year, and this is another episode of Mr. Parker Meets, and I'm really excited about this one because I get to talk with two exceptional women that I've had the ability to work with, my wife has worked with, and so I'm just really excited to introduce you to them. I have Jessica Roberts. She is the media specialist at Corner Lake Middle School, and I have Tonja Doering, and she is the media specialist at Arbor Ridge K8 School. And so Jessica, I had the privilege of working with at Winter Park Ninth Grade Center for a few years. She was a reading teacher before she took a break to start a family and then got back into school. And my wife and my children have the privilege of Miss Deering being their media specialist. My wife works at Arbor Ridge and my three kids go there. And so I'm just really excited to talk with them and to see what's going on in the Media Center, because I really think the Media Center is an important place for schools, and it's like a hub of learning. And so I saw a quote and it said something to the effect of how schools view their Media Center is how they view learning. And I know both of these women really have vibrant loves of learning and want to attract kids into their Media Center to teach them reading and help them find the perfect book and to explore all of the things that books can give them. So we're going to start. I want to know, so first off, how did you get into education and into the Media Center? So Jessica, we'll start with you. So tell us your story of how you got to be where you are today.
Well, I pretty much always knew I was going to be a teacher. There really wasn't any doubt in my mind that I was going to be a teacher growing up. But when I moved to Florida and became a teacher in Orange County in 2000, I taught language arts. And then when I moved to Winter Park, I taught reading, and I worked with Joanne Pryor in the Media Center a lot and saw what an important job she had and how the Media Center is truly like the heart of the school, and how I worked with them and they made my job a lot easier, and they helped me so much and my reading students. And so I always had in the back of my head, wow, I really think I'd like to do that. And so when I had the privilege of coming back to Orange County this year, I was really excited to be able to work in the Media Center here at Corner Lake.
Awesome. Tanya?
I actually have a very similar story. My mom was actually a teacher, so I was like, I really don't want to be a teacher. But I started out as a speech therapist, actually. So my first several years in Orange County, this is my 25th year in Orange County. So it's been a long road for me, but I've loved every single minute of it. I started as a speech therapist, and then my principal at the time said, hey, we're going to open up an ESC unit, and I think you'd be perfect for it. And I was like, sure. And so I was thinking I really wanted to be more part of a school because I was at two different schools and I had to balance back and forth. So I went back and got a master's in special education and taught ESE for several years. I actually came to Arbor Ridge and taught for a few years there, but then I did end up at Corner Lake Middle School. And then when I was there, the assistant principal said, I think you would be an amazing reading teacher. Would you be interested in doing your reading endorsement? And I said, definitely. So I went in that. I taught intensive reading for several years. Then I went over to Colonial High School as a reading coach for several years. And then I was like, just like you, the media centers, I always had such a great relationship with our media specialists, and they always were such a huge place for me and my students to go to. And I was like, I really would love to be a media specialist. So I went back, studied about some media specialists, got certified in media, and now I've been back at Arbor Ridge, and I am just loving every single minute of it because it truly is the heartbeat of the school.
So both of you hit on this, and I said at the beginning, like we talked about the heartbeat, the central place, kind of a hub of learning. So how do you engage learners as your role of media specialist? Because I think what's cool about the media specialist is you're a teacher of all the students, like you have influence of all students on campus. So what do you do? How do you engage learners using your role? Tanya, how do y'all do that at Arbor Ridge?
Well, first you have to build relationships with your students, with your staff, even your families, you have to, build those relationships. And then obviously you have to make the media center an inviting place to come. So, pre-COVID, obviously this year things look a lot different in our media centers, but like I have a maker space in the morning where students are allowed to come in, and we do have activities. They can do puzzles, they can create things. I had all sorts of Kiva plank challenges. I made it like where the kids wanted to come in. It was very busy and very loud in our media center every morning. Back in the day, you have to be quiet in the media center. Not anymore. Our media center is very active. Students could come in and check out books. And I'm just engaging. I try to be in the classrooms with the students. You just try to find out what they're interested in and make sure that you have the materials that the students want. So if they ask me for books, I try my best to get those books into our media center. If they want a certain activity in the makerspace, I make sure that their needs are met. So that's what I do the best as I can.
And Jessica, you're at a middle school. So yeah, Tanya has some middle school students, but the majority of the students are K5. So I'm in there. So what are some things that as a middle school, those 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
Right,
absolutely. What can you do?
Well, I have a little bit of an advantage being that I'm half-time media specialist and half-time teacher. So I still have my intensive reading students. So I have a really good little core of students that I can constantly ask questions. Oh, what books, what kind of things should I order? What would get you interested? They all want manga, they all want the anime and the graphic novels. So I get a lot of my ideas from them, which is helpful. I like to go on the morning announcements, and I've been having contests, certain reading contests and the Beanstack challenges. I've been trying to promote those in the school. Being that this is my first year in the media center during COVID has been, a little bit of a challenge for me to do all the ideas that I want to do. But this year I feel like I've connected a lot. Opening before school, it has been very busy in here before school, checking out books. And then also I've been meeting a lot of families because on Thursdays after school, I deliver books. So people that have transportation issues or whatnot, or launch ed students, I will, on Thursdays after school, I deliver books to their house. We kind of have a little system down where they leave it out by the front door, and I'll take the old books and leave the new books or whatnot. So I've been really working on trying to develop relationships with some of the launch ed kids that way.
That's really cool. I love, yeah, getting the books in their hands. I've seen media specialists be creative, and they have like drive-through checkouts and all sorts of stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. It still engage those families in there. So I know Tanya does something. So maybe with Jessica, if you want to chime in on this one as well. I know you do stuff with kind of engage the families as well. Being that I'm one of those families that she works with. So what are some things, some ways that you get the families to come on campus after hours to get with their kids engaged in literacy and things like that? Like your literacy night and all.
Are you okay? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Tanya.
Yes. Oh, so well, you were one of the most successful ones was our literacy scavenger hunt with the Goose Chase app. So we had families competing against each other, and we created literacy activities for families to go around the school and compete in, and the students really had a great time. Families had a great time, so much so that I digitally did it 2 times because I had so much feedback from the first one. Please tell me we're going to do it again this year. So we did do it 2 times in a row because it was very successful. Obviously last year we couldn't have anything after school like that, and this year is kind of difficult too. But we do. I've invited the Orange County Library System. They come and do story time. So we've had nighttime story times. Even over the summer, I usually do once a week where the families can still come in and join in, and they can listen to a story. We just try to do all sorts, just try to connect with those families, and a lot of the challenges and getting students and their families kind of involved in that. And I do join in a lot of the our LaunchEd students. I still go into those classes and I read to those students. I really share all the resources that they have, like the Sora, the new, the virtual card, things that they can get online access to books since they all have devices.
Very cool. Jessica, as a teacher, or maybe this year, what are some ways that you've engaged families in literacy kind of just learning and stuff like that?
Well, this year, you said it's been a challenge. So for me this year has been a lot of working with trying to get in with the launch ed students and getting books into their hands. I haven't done any of the literacy nights yet, but that's definitely something I want to talk to you about, that the Goose Chase app, because that sounds super fun.
It's a lot of fun. We love it. And it's fun seeing families and their kids. So you see like moms and dads, like, and their kids like, I know where that is. And the parents are running behind them. I mentioned that dad running too. So. Oh, I saw that. I know where that is.
I love it. That's so cool.
And it seems like, you know, it's good because like my Caroline was in kindergarten. So it was like, find something that has multiple S's or C's or letter recognition. And then, you know, Colby was in 5th grade. So it was something that could be a little more advanced and challenging for reading for him. And it had stuff all in between. So I absolutely loved that. And just, it was all literacy focused and reading and stuff like that. It was so much fun. Since both of you do have connection with secondary kids, and we know reading's important at all levels and all ages, but as they get into that middle school and stuff like that, what do you do to encourage that? I know both of you hit those books that they want to read and stuff like that, but how do you kind of get a wide variety of kids kind of into your media center? What are some things that we can encourage as families or parents or as teachers, classroom teachers? What can we do to encourage that reading as well?
I feel like the number one thing, and as a parent and a teacher and a media specialist, it can be challenging for me, is focusing on their interests. So not what I think you should read or what I like to read, but what are you interested in? And so you really have to get to know them, talking to them, you know, interacting with them, asking them what they're interested in. I mean, a lot of students only think of reading as novels, and you know, I guide them over to the nonfiction area and they're like, a whole new world has opened up for them. Also, you know, our media center has different genres in it, which I think is helpful. Some kids might not think they're into historical fiction until they try a historical fiction book. So just exposing them to different things, but also focusing on what their interests are and letting them take the lead. You know, my favorite genre is horror. And so a lot of kids are like, you know, and that's the smallest section in our library this year. That's going to change. And I talk about different horror books all the time. And my students were like, I never would think to read that. And I'm like, it's good, you know. And so I'll read a chapter to them and then they're sold. So focusing on their interests, but then still trying to like expand their horizons a little bit. I think that's the best thing, especially for secondary kids.
Yeah, I agree. Listening, you just have to listen. Like, you really need to listen to what the students are saying and what they're doing. Like, a lot of times they'll come into, I mean, and really at not this year so much, obviously, but last year the middle school kids would come in, and I loved it at the K8 because they would really help the little kids, and they would be like, oh, I love this book. And it's amazing. They still love picture books, but they kind of feel bad, like, oh, I don't. And I'm like, no. So I would always tell you, like, no, it's okay that you love it. And I'm like, they would read the picture books to the kids, like in the morning. Oh my gosh, it was like the best thing ever to see this. But you know, just book talking real quick about books. I match them up with Novelist Plus, where they can they pick a book that they really liked. It kind of gives them suggestions of other books that they would like. There are a couple of websites that I do show the students and say, hey, do this, check this out, and kind of gives them recommendations if you like this, because obviously I haven't read every single book. There's over 11,000 books in our media center, so I haven't read everything. And like, there's certain genres that I'm not a big fan of, and I tell them that, and they're like, what? And I'm like, no, it's okay. So letting them know that it's okay, that they don't have to like every single book in the media center. And then when you do get the book and I'll let them check it out first, because I have like a Google form they can suggest and they can put their name on it, so no one else has to know that they asked for a certain book. And then I give it to them first. I let them check it out first, and they think that's the greatest thing ever. And so so like little things like that, just so that they know that you're listening to them. I know teachers do a great job of like, hey, check this book out, or read this book, or doing a first chapter chapter, and just letting the kids talk for a few minutes at the beginning of class, like, hey, what is a great book that you've read recently? And then that's just another way for other students to hear about what books are out there and that what people are actually reading. And Beanstack, to be honest, like my kids are really good at doing the reviews, and so then they can go in and see what other books people are reading too. So there's lots of different ways we can get them interested in books, and graphic novels are books. And so if we can get everyone to say, like, those are really hard books for me. They're very hard for me to read and comprehend. There's a lot of comprehension that goes on and with graphic novels. So I am all for graphic novels. I'm not one that says, no, you can't check out a graphic novel. So, and the students really do love them, and they eat those up like crazy. So.
And it's interesting the connection that books can make. I remember I had a student years ago, and he was a what people would call a problem kid or stuff like that. And he was, I don't know if you had him or not, Jessica, I don't remember. But I remember he was reading a book that he was like part of, and we used to have it at the 9th grade center, sustained silent reading. So we had SSR 4 days a week, 20 minutes, everybody read, the whole campus. Like the principal would come in and sit down and read a book in a class every day. It was the most amazing thing. And I remember he was just a problem, and he was reading this book. And he's like, oh, Mr. Parker, you should read this book. And I was like, what's it about? And he tells me, I'm like, this book does not seem like anything I'd be interested in reading. But I read it, and I had an instant connection with the kid for the rest of the year. Like, he felt this connection, and it's how books can do that when they're like, hey, and that we care enough. So the fact that y'all ask them, and then you let them be the first ones to check it out, and you show that the interest in there, I think that's really important for us. Is there a project maybe in your media center or at your school that you do that you think that would be, or that a teacher does, or anything like that, literacy wise or reading focus that did you like to highlight? You'd be like, hey, this is pretty awesome that we do at our school that I think would be great to showcase for everyone else to see what's awesome things that has going on in the schools at Orange County with our reading programs. Do you have something to share, like a project or a lesson or something that you do specifically in a reading class or something like that you can tell us about?
I started a YouTube channel this year where I will do different themes for First Chapter Friday YouTube channel. And so, because I was reading it out loud to each class, and it was just kind of getting tedious. Like, I wanted more than just my class to be able to see it. I wanted to be able to share it with the ELA teachers or whatnot. And so, obviously I done like a horror series of different scary books, around Halloween time. And then I've been doing the Sunshine State books. So I'm doing like a 15-week series right now, First Chapter Friday on the 15 middle grades Sunshine State books. So that's been my fun activity this year that I've been, I play it during bell work on Fridays, and it's magic because those books always get checked out.
That sounds awesome. I saw you say something about that. So that's pretty cool that in there. And I love that you're encouraging the different genres.
My students always want to know how many views I have. So yeah, I'll share my link with anyone.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I have to say, like, obviously the Goose Chase one was one of the most successful and most fun ones, and the kids still talk about that one. And teachers have used that in classroom. They took that model and then they used it for their content in their classroom. So teachers have done that, and I've also done it for library orientation when they come in the beginning of the year. But I have to say, like, the makerspace, like, I really enjoyed creating different challenges for the students, different things like that. And then for my middle school last year, we couldn't do it really this year because we can't really have them all in the media center, but I would do book tastings, especially with some of our ELA classes. And so I really went to town. Like, I set it up and I had the tablecloths, the kids would come in, and then they were able to see different books that were in our, and I chose random books, like lots of different books, so the kids would have a variety of books to see. So, and we would do that periodically, and even like the AP would come in and sit with the kids, and then I would always at the end, they would get like popcorn or something, but because they're like, oh, thought we were going to get a tasting, like, you are. So things like that, just to spark the interest in some of those books. So those are some of the most successful things that we've done. And of course, our Sunshine State program, every year I have a theme. Like this year's the space theme, you can see. So I've done the kids, if they meet, like they read 5 books by a certain date, they get certain like prizes, and then 10 books, and then 15, and then voting. If they, the students that met 3, we do a big thing for them. So that's been successful, because every year it's a different theme. They get brag tags. They love all those types of things, just to recognize them for the hard work that they're doing. And this year they're going to get to silly string some of their teachers, so they're going to love that.
Nice. That's a lot of fun. And one thing I know that is you do, Tanya, and it's a lot, and I think it's pretty awesome, is my kids have got to meet different authors.
Oh, yes. How did I forget that?
And I think that's pretty awesome that they have that opportunity. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yes, I've been very lucky and blessed to be able to work with several authors. And we've done a lot of virtual visits with authors. This year alone, I think we've done six different authors that students have had the opportunity to meet and discuss and ask questions to. So yeah, and I try to find at least one of the Sunshine State authors, usually each year, to kind of come in and talk to our students. And it really does make a difference. And some of the kids were like, oh my gosh, a real life author I was able to meet. Like back in the day, we never had that opportunity. Like, it was very hard. Like I still sometimes get I feel like I'm a little starstruck when I see an author. I'm like, whoa. But it is amazing with the technology that we have now and the things that we can do. Because I'm meeting with authors that were in Canada this year, and she was showing us how the sled dogs work, and the kids were amazed, because we live in Florida, so they didn't get that experience. So I just reach out. A lot of professional development growth especially on Twitter and things like that, where you can start connecting with other people and expanding your network. And then it's a fun way for the students to to meet their author, ask questions, and who knows, we might spark the next one of these great authors that we have. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, it is fun for the students. They do enjoy that.
I got to be there because I work with an author's wife, and so we got connected, and I got to be there when he spoke to the kids, and they were just super excited and thrilled. And then they got autographed copies of the book, and they thought they were like the big deal in there. So I love that opportunity is out there. And then my middle son got it because he read a certain number of books. Mm-hmm. He got a book, and I actually tweeted out to the author, and he responded to me. And my Caden was like beyond, thought that was the coolest thing ever, that Garrett Lerner, who he loves his books, responded to a tweet that his dad sent him with a picture of him. And so I thought it was, I think what you're saying is the media center we can expand a lot of horizons, and social media really can get these people to talk to us. One last thing before we close up here is we were talking about a little before we came on about social emotional learning and social emotional needs, and we talk about the media center being the hub of learning, but both of y'all were talking about it can be the hub for social emotional needs of students and faculty. So what are some things that you do or you're planning to do as we move out of our COVID kind of bubble that we're in that can really enhance the media center's role in the social emotional learning, not just the academic learning? Jessica, we'll start with you.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the library is already a place where if a kid feels anxious or stressed, a lot of times, especially during lunch or before school, they will gravitate to the media center. It's kind of like a quiet place and a safe place. And next year, I really wanted to expand on that by having like a calming corner in the media center, where our couches are, where they could have, one corner will be the maker space, and then the other corner will be, adult coloring books and soft music, and you can read your book there. Almost, I don't want to say a cafe kind of feel, but, just a place to decompress. And I feel that, we have good relationships with our students. They know that we care about them. And I feel like if they have a place to come that's quiet and safe and comforting and inviting, that it will do wonders for your social emotional.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely like the common corner because my media center is not very big. So, but there was like this year, I was going to plan on having the far corner away for kids that wanted to read or do homework, because it does get quite noisy in the back of my media center. We have a Lego wall. I mean, there's lots of going on back there. But I definitely am going to be looking at our book collection and seeing what books I can do, what books I can then purchase to help with some of these social emotional. There's a lot of new books out there now on the market to help with students with their coping with their feelings, with, just topics like test anxiety, things like that. And then I know our second grade team they've really delved deep, and they just got a grant, and they've been really studying social emotional. So I'm already in talks with them about what I can do to help, in the media center, what books we can order, just so that we're trying to meet the wide range of their social emotional needs. So that's one thing I'm definitely going to look into, is looking at our book collection.
And I did, you mentioned this, and this is the question that kind of just thrown at y'all that I just thought of. In here, the book collection is really important, and we're seeing a lot today. And I spent another time this week talking with some civics teachers, and one of the things we talked about was like representation of different races, ethnicities, genders, things like that. They always ask, I always see questions on Twitter and different social media about when was the first time you had a teacher of color or read a book with a main character was a person of color. And I have the huge honor, and I did not realize it then, but looking back now, my media specialist in middle school was an African-American woman. She's one of my mom's closest friends. She comes over for her Christmas party. We see them often. So I still have this great relationship with Miss Harrell. But we had, back in the mid 80s and early 90s, we constantly had books about African-American kids were and there wasn't a lot of them at that time, I felt like, but, had these books with these characters of different races and ethnicities, and she really worked hard at that. And I didn't realize at that point what a trendsetter she was, but I see that, Jessica, some of the things that you did when you were here and the books you read, and Tanya, the books that I see my kids bringing back. So how important is the representation in your collection? How important is that, and what do you do, and what do you think about that? I don't know.
It's very important. I mean, that is one thing I have focused on starting last year. I really started looking at the books that we had, and we do have this nice little analysis that we can run, and so I can see what areas that we definitely need to beef up on. But like I said, a lot of the students, the requests of their books are helping fill some of these needs. So as soon as they tell us some books, and then of course, we there's lots of different sources that we can search, and there's a lot of diverse books, and like definitely book list, and I'm like happy to look, but every time I'm like, oh good, I already have that one. Oh good, I already have that one. So there are a lot that we already have, but then there's some that we do need to beef up on. So that is something that is one of my goals for this year. And I think we've added, oh my gosh, I can't even know how many books I've added this year that just meet that criteria. So it is a huge focus for me in our library.
Exactly. I took a really good training class this year, being that I am a first-year media specialist, and we didn't have a media specialist in here for the last couple of years, but I have a really great clerk who's been running it. So I really wanted to expand on exactly what you were saying, and this training class was great, and I learned about all these different book awards because I grew up with the same book awards that we've always known about, but I mean, like, every culture, like so many book awards I didn't know about that I know about now. So, I'm going in there and I'm looking at all the winners, and I'm putting them on my list, and just trying, because what you said is spot on, Stuart. They need to see themselves reflected in the books in the library, bottom line. And I feel like, especially in secondary schools, students are noticing that. And they notice it in elementary school too. Mm-hmm. But it's, I wish we all had trendsetter media specialists like you did when we were younger.
And that's one of those things that I took for granted until conversations came up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I read this, and and in a way that wasn't because reading can do that. It can open eyes in a non-threatening way in that. So I love that the focus of how are we going to, and you're both of you, I love that you're talking about being intentional about book purchases, because sometimes I think people just think, oh, the media specialist just goes through and says, oh, these are the ones that are on the most read lists, and so we're just going to buy those. And you probably do, but then you probably also look and say, okay, what are books that are going to represent and reflect the students that are in my school? And I think that's really, really important for us. So thank you. And then, of course, the last question I've asked I'll ask everyone that I get to talk to this during all of these sessions. And it's just kind of fun because it gives me new things to read and watch and listen to as we go. So what's something that you're reading? I know y'all are, who knows, you're probably reading, I don't even know how much you're reading, but pick one or two or something you're watching. Lots of things streaming and everything right now, TVs, movies, or a group that you're listening to that you're like, hey, this is an awesome group that doesn't get enough press, and I think that they're pretty cool. So what's something you're reading or watching or listening to, or all of the above? So I don't care, whichever. I've got my pencil down to write down if I like it. So
go ahead, Jessica.
Okay. Well, where do I even start? So the book I'm reading right now, I'm actually reading the City Spy sequel, James Conti's second book, because my daughter and I loved his first book so much. I'm reading that like because I like middle school books. So I for fun, I read those. And then obviously I'm into true crime podcasts. So I have about 1 million true crime podcasts that I listen to. And then for TV, my family, we're watching all the ghost hunting shows on the Travel Channel right now. So.
And for everybody, like I've known Jessica for a while, it does surprise me that horror is her favorite genre. I feel like with her students, be like, really?
Yeah, everyone's always surprised by it.
That's pretty cool. I love it, and that's what I love about reading and stuff like that. People find the things that they don't like. Okay, yeah, true crime podcasts are pretty popular.
Oh yeah, they're good.
And you feel like you're like invested in this. You're like, I need to know, like.
Right, and then you're listening to it at night, and then you check your front door and make sure it's locked like 5 times before you can go to sleep. Yeah.
Well, I hardly ever read adult books. I don't ever get the chance because, I'm always even like reviewing books or reading books. And since I'm K-8, I have 45 Sunshine State books alone every year I have to read. So I am actually finishing, and the kids probably will die. Like, she didn't finish them all. Well, because they were all checked out. So I'm finally getting my last one in, the Caterpillar Summer, and I'm enjoying that. One's a 3 to 5 Sunshine State book list. So I'm finally getting caught up on that one. But everyone else I've done. So that one I'm reading. And then I'm going to start, hopefully once that list comes out, then I'll start on next year's list already. So I'm waiting for that already, even though it's only April. So I really don't get to read too many, but I did read, well, I guess I probably shouldn't say this is a school one. So I won't say my last adult one I read. And then for TV, I love any home improvement show like Hometown. And then actually one series that I absolutely love, I think it's on Netflix maybe, is Turn, and you might like that one, The Washington Spies. It's a series. Oh my gosh, I'm hooked. And I'm not hugely a huge historical, sorry, I know, Stuart, that you're but Turn, it's Washington Spies. It was, I guess it was a show on one A&E or History or some one of those channels before, but I think it's streaming on Netflix. And oh my gosh, I was hooked. And so we're almost done with it. So I really liked that one. So that was a good one.
Jessica, have you and Ruby, do you have Disney? Have you seen the Secrets of Sulphur Springs?
No.
I've heard about that.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
Caroline and I, that's our show, me and Caroline. And the boys like it too, but it's these kids, and the dad goes back to his hometown, or I don't know if it's hometown, and he buys a hotel. And in the basement of the hotel, there's a bunker, and the bunker is a time machine. And they go back in time, and they meet their parents as kids, and then a girl goes missing, and it's they know this girl's been missing, but they go back the night she goes missing, and so they're trying to piece together what happened to her.
Oh, cool.
And then I
said we will check that out.
Oh, and every Friday Caroline's like, can we watch it? I'm like, if she's up before I leave, I'm like, no, I have to go to school. It's 6:30. Of course, it's March, almost March. So Melissa hates March because basketball is constantly on in our house. So that's what I'm doing. And I said this on the last one. I just finished it. It's Jason Reynolds' book, Stamped, from the beginning.
Yes.
Racism, anti-racism, and you. I've hit a couple years ago. I started different types of books like that. So now of that anti-racist approach, and then I got a book and I started it, and I'm like, I need to go back and finish it, and it's called Oh crud! I can't even. Homecoming or Homegoing, one of the two. But it's about slavery. It's a fictional book, but it's about slavery and stuff like that. And so I started, and then just life got in the way. So I'm like, I saw it on the bookshelf, my nightstand yesterday. I was like, oh, I need to pick that back up because it was really good, and it was getting to the point that I was like, oh, and then just stuff happened. So that's where I am. So. Well, I have absolutely had a great time talking with y'all, and I love the Media Center. I think I have loved the Media Center since I first stepped foot on my elementary school and kindergarten. I have always found the media specialists to be the most amazing people, and both of you are wonderful. And I've enjoyed showcasing some of the awesome things that y'all do and how you engage the students at your school to be leaders and learners and readers, and I know that they're all blessed to have y'all. And Orange County has some amazing media centers and amazing media specialists, and I hope the schools realize how lucky we are to have such a great program and support from the district and at the school level. So thank y'all for taking some time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And I just look forward to hearing the more awesome things that y'all are doing in your library. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Congrats.